you're going to have access to one of these things. If you're not, there's a couple of things you can do, and if you're training in a commercial gym, you probably have something that's close, but doesn't quite do the same job. Okay? So this is called a GHI, glute hamstring raise. It was invented for a very specific purpose. It's also, I'm going to show you what that is, but it's also a pretty useful machine to do a bunch of other movements on. So if you're in a conventional gym, you're probably going to have access to like a standard Roman chair. A Roman chair is just something that's going to have a paddle on the front. It's going to be it's not going to be just have this aggressive curve on there. It's just going to be probably a small padded surface way down here. It's probably just going to have one of these back pads, one of these stirrups at the back, and that's purely to rest the back of your ankles against. And you're doing like essentially a reverse sit-up, like a back extension movement. And that's going to be fine for some stuff, and it's just not going to be adequate for others. So I'm going to show you the full sort of gamut of what I want you to do. I'm going to show you the things on here, the back extension sort of movements, and then I'm going to show you some alternatives for the other stuff. Okay? Cool. So first up, we're going to go with the back extension. Now, because this has such a curve on it, it's not going to be as clear as the way I position my body the way I do, so I'm going to try and explain as much as I can. So, because I've got the two stirrups on this, my feet go through the middle of them. That's what they're there for, to sort of sandwich my foot. But you're probably just going to have access to the wall. Okay, that's cool, so you just stick your ankles underneath the pad. I'm going to set the length of the machine or the length of the equipment so that the crease of my hip, so where I bend at the hip, is beyond the top of the pad. So with a big curve like this, it's not as obvious, but if it's a really sort of sharp corner on the pad, it'll be really obvious. Basically set that just behind the bend in the hip. Okay, that's going to give you the ability to swing through a good sort of 90 degrees of range. Okay? Now, I'm going to sit out, sit long, sit my heels under the pad. At that point, I'm squeezing everything here, hamstring, glute, and calf to hold me upright. I'm flexing my ankles back towards me, so I'm pulling my toes back towards me. That's my top range. I'm just going to put my hands across my chest for the moment. My bottom range is all the way down here. Hamstrings are relaxed, glutes are on stretch, and my back is set still in that kind of neutral, I've got a curve in my back, I'm not flexed out. I've still got a curve, so I'm still kind of working to lift my chest up even though my legs are relaxed. I'm just curl myself up to the top by squeezing my butt and squeezing my hamstrings. To get down, I have to relax here, swing down, and then squeeze up to the top, squeeze my butt, squeeze my hamstrings, and that's sort of this tight, this tight, this tight, down as close to 90 as I can get, so as close to hanging up vertical, and come on up. That's my, that's what we call a back extension. It's actually a movement at the hip. The spine stays locked in tight. It's pretty much the entire posterior chain do the work. So I'm going to do a couple of reps, just as per a set, and then we'll move on to how we can make this movement a little more difficult. So set out beyond the pad. I'm going to go hands across chest, back tight, all the way down, up. All the way down, up, all the way down, up. If I'm super tight in my hamstrings, I'm not going to be able to get that full range without sort of, I'll probably get to about here, and then I'm going to start rounding my back out, start flexing my spine. I'm probably going to take it for now to get a little bit of range. That's just going to show that you've got some real work to do with that hamstring. If you can only get an angle of sort of 30–40 degrees, that means you're at a massive risk of injury when we throw you out of the water and you start trying to use the techniques that Woody uses for paddling and stuff. If you have adequate range, so on that I would say before you jump on here, you can either use this as a dynamic stretch or you need to be doing some hamstring specific stuff before you get on here to get you ready for the movement so you can get the most out of it. Okay. How I can make this a little more difficult, so upscaling essentially. If you have something fixed to the ground, and you can use, this comes attached with a couple of hooks down here, which is really, really handy. So I can just hook bands in underneath, and I can use that to add tension. dumbbells, like really the heaviest dumbbells you can find in the gym, with your band around it. But there's probably a better way, and I'm going to show you that in a second. But if you can do it, this is how I'm going to work. Feet go into the band, feet go into the stirrups. Here we go. Hooked in, band on the back of the neck, curl up, curl up, curl up, curl up. And that's really quite an aggressive way of loading the top of that back extension, because as you get closer to the top, the band gets tighter and tighter and tighter, and adds more and more resistance as you get up. So it's a great way of strengthening that top part of the back extension. The other way we can do it, which is probably a bit more accessible, is I'm going to go put myself a lumbar plate or any kind of weight really. Take it across my chest, all the way down. I can load it this way. Or I can probably load it on the back of my head. Across the chest is a little bit easier in terms of the lever that it creates. So a weight held across the chest is going to be considerably easier than loading it on the back of your head, where it's much further away from your hip. So that's a strong contraction needed to get up. Okay, so that's back extension. I want to give you the movement that this thing was designed for, why it has such a strong curve on it. It's called a glute hamstring raise. And this, I'm going to throw a warning out there now. If you have access to one of these things and you've never done it before, you need to approach this with caution, because this will rip your hamstrings off the bone. And I'm not joking about that. This is a hard movement to control. You need to start off really cautiously. Okay? We'll have the same sort of setup that allows me to do the back extension. I'm going to have my knees resting up against the pad. My toes pressing hard against that back plate, which is why this plate's on. So that's going to help me pull myself up to standing. I'm in a vertical position now. I'm going to use my hammies to lower me down to a horizontal position. And I'm going to pull back with my toes, pull my heel to my block, essentially to bring me back to vertical. I'm going to go out, straighten my legs, and pull back aggressively with my toes, my hammies, and my block. I'm going to straighten my leg out, push with my heel, and then pull hard with my toes. Take a break. And that's that is one of the greatest hamstring strengtheners. Without loading you up on a deadlift or something along those lines, this is a great assistance exercise, great movement. And I'm going to give you an alternative now, something to play with in the gym. If you don't have access to this equipment, I'm going to borrow my ball.
Not terrible.
Okay, so this is just a cushion. This is just a cushion for my knees. I'm just going to dry that off. It's about 400 degrees in the room right now, and it's quite disgusting. Okay, it's got woogie sweat on it. Right. So with a partner, this is, like I say, this is just a cushion. It can be anything, rolling towels or whatever, something to protect your kneecap with all the pressure down in the knee. Now, instead of the weight being here, where it is on the machine or on the apparatus, I've got the weight way down here, which makes this really long lever. It's much, much harder to control. So I'm going to have my hands out in front of me. I'm going to catch myself with my hands. I'm going to have to use a little bit of arm to get me back up, or I'm going to get stuck down there, unless I've just got brutally massive strong hamstrings, which I'm obviously. I'm going to lean down under control, holding my heels down. I'm going to catch myself, and I'm going to push up. I'm going to curl my heels to my bum. I'm going to lean down, everything's tight, catch. Curling up so that probably from about 45 degrees upwards is a really strong hamstring contraction. Leaning down, that's tight, push. And that's a brutal movement. Thanks, mate, that's good. That's a brutal movement.
One more.
Considerably more difficult than it looks, I guarantee you. Don't underestimate, thanks, mate. Don't underestimate if you're not used to it, this is low dose stuff. If I had to put numbers on it for you guys, let's work something in the realms of 3 sets, somewhere in the 10 to 15 range on the back extension. If 3 sets of 10 to 15 becomes quite easy, if that's a no-brainer for you, you wake up the next day, no real soreness, start loading that movement up. Be progressive, make your load small. You know, you've got a heap of time to build your training. You didn't just jump out on the ocean and go for a 15k downwind, or you might know. Most people don't. Okay? So take your time, build up over time, be progressive with this stuff. And the glute hamstring raises, I would say, the first time you attempt them, you're going to be working somewhere in the realm of, I don't know, let's say 3 to 5 sets of 3 to 5 reps. It's probably going to give you a whole bunch of hamstring soreness you've never thought possible before. Okay? We've got one more thing for you guys to play with. This is probably more in the sort of rep scheme of the back extension, and this can be as a plus, or it can be as a complete alternate if you want to sort of swap it up on different days. I'm going to get a really quite a stiff band, probably the same thing that I've been asking you guys to use for your hamstring stretches and stuff. So something quite sturdy. I think this is the I think this is 45 mil thick. Okay, so that's a pretty good strong stretch on that. We'll fix it pretty low. I'm going to straddle the band, take an overhand grip on it, so knuckle grip. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to load this band up as much as I can. Stand up straight, so I'm going to find that point where I can stand up straight. And from there, squeezing my butt, my hips forward into my arms, so I press my arms forward. I'll let the band stretch me all the way back. And then pull through to the front, squeezing my butt and my hamstrings. The band stretch me all the way back. And pull through to the front, squeezing my butt and my hamstrings into my arms, getting that full contraction at the front. Push back. Squeeze forward. Okay, now I can render this pretty ineffective by one, flexing my spine when I do this. As soon as I round my back, as soon as I flex my spine, it takes tension off the hamstrings. So even though you see me letting my hips crease and I'm leaning over forward, I'm still trying to keep that stretch, that sort of that arch in my back, that natural curve in my back. The other thing that I'm doing is I'm trying to keep my knees, well, I'm not dead straight, a little bit of a bend. I'm thinking of this movement, so my hips are pushing back. I'm not really getting low into a squat position. I'm keeping my knees braced back and my butt in the air. And that's what puts this kind of hip at full flexion. So I'm really closing that angle, I'm flexing the hip. And then I'm coming up to full hip extension. I'm really driving my butt forward, my hips forward. I'm trying to get as much contraction through to the front as I can. Okay? Distance from the poles can vary depending on your strength and your endurance in this movement. Again, 3 sets of 10 to 15 movements is going to be happy days. And this is, all this stuff really is to tie in to the whole sort of hip extension piece when we're talking about you guys being out on the water. You're in your sort of wishbone stance, you're reaching forward, lock, you've got a neutral spine, you've got your hip flex. You've got your knees back, you've got an effective reach forward with the paddle, you lock in, and then you're trying to pull your body forward into the paddle, you're trying to pull your body forwards across the water, bring the body with you, and that's the hip extension piece that we need to strengthen up. That's why people are getting hamstrings torn off, that's why people are getting calves torn, posterior chains not strong enough, they may not be utilised effectively enough. Immobilise, stretch, strengthen. Happy days.
One quick thing. Don't forget, we're here to help. What is it? theoceanathlete@gmail.com. Send us some information. If you guys want any questions asked, send us the information. Keep saying we're here to help. Don't be embarrassed if we say your question. There's a great resource here, and Danny and myself. We want to help the sport grow and get better. So theoceanathlete@gmail.com. We can do the video analysis stuff.
Yep, that's pretty cool.
So in the weightlifting, in the paddling, and all those sorts of things. So get on it, use the resource, and we'll see you next week.
Any of this stuff can be on my game as well. If it's something you try, if it's something you want to do that we put forward to you guys, video, get yourself a side-on shot, video, get yourself a front-on shot, upload it to onmygame.com, the Ocean Athlete, and we'll get that message, we'll do some stuff.
Okay.